right, good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS. This is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 150. This is a show where we share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation. But before we get on with the show, I'd like to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and visit us on Twitter and Tumblr. If you want to make fun of our trophy list on the PSN, you can find me at anchorless_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at jakesaw01. As always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. And most importantly, do not forget to share this show with your friends and be sure to leave comments and rate the podcast as you see fit. That will help us get into the ears of everybody else. Jake, how are you today, man? We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting started. This is episode 150. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I guess it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it's kind of bound to happen if we just keep at it. We stopped for almost a year. We did one podcast last year, I think. But, man, we still have the lag. So the listeners, I apologize. I don't know if you guys can tell after I do the editing, but there is some lag for sure between Jake and I for whatever goddamn reason. I just wanted to, just let the listeners know that we were trying to come up with something kind of cool, and we do have something planned for this episode. We're going to do a top 5. Jake and I each came up with, I don't know what he picked. He doesn't know what I picked. Top 5 games of the generation. Some people may think it's early to do that kind of thing, but knowing how this podcast rolls and how we missed an episode last week, it's just, I'd rather do it than not do it. And sure, you might argue that there's some other games planning on being released still for this generation, but the majority of games I believe that were going to come out have pretty much come out, and everybody has shifted their attention to the next gen consoles. So I thought today would be a good day, and this episode would be a good episode to talk about some of our top 5 games of the generation. When we get to that segment, we'll lay it out a little more obvious to you about what games we're specifically kind of talking about. And of course, there's going to be some obvious ones that we're not putting on the list. But Jake, I'm still playing Ghost of Tsushima. I'm still in Act 2. This game does not end. I'm enjoying it. I got probably an hour and 40 minutes in this morning. I don't know. I think we golfed on Friday, and you said that you were still working on it. So I haven't played anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing the same stuff that I've been playing. Played a little bit of Everybody's Golf, which is just the PS4 version of Hot Shots Golf. But other than that, I really haven't played much of anything else. Just trying to kind of get my way through Ghost of Tsushima, pretty much.
Yeah, did you see that they released a 4-player co-op mode called Legends? It's going to be 4 different characters. It's going to include the assassin, hunter, ronin, and of course, they're going to be samurai characters you can play as. Most games, each character class comes with its own set of perks and weaknesses, but there's also going to be a raid they were talking about, and there's going to be new enemies in the game and a different realm that you can play in. Like, I haven't even gotten far enough to even... I saw that my game downloaded a free patch or whatever. I'm guessing that was it because it was free. I don't even know how to access it. I have no idea how to trigger it. You might have to beat the game first. Have you seen anything come up on your menu since that's downloaded?
No, but to be honest with you, I never shut the game off. So I never even see, maybe like once a week, I see the main menu because I just literally I just suspend the game and shut my PS4 off and come back to it so I don't have to load through all the menus.
Put it in rest.
Yeah, so I didn't even know they were doing that. That's kind of cool, actually. Not that I don't know that I would ever use it, but that's a pretty neat thing if they're adding that in to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think they already did. It's kind of crazy because or maybe they threw a patch out to prepare for it, maybe is what happened, but it looks pretty substantial. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We're just going to kind of go over some stuff that's happened because we haven't done a podcast for 2 weeks now we did one 2 weeks ago. But I don't know, Jake, you and I both played the Tony Hawk games. I was over at Push Square, which is where I get a lot of my news articles from. But you remember that character you could be in Tony Hawk called Officer Dick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess apparently some people got into the game files of the new remastered games or something, and they found a skin of Officer Dick in the new remaster, and it looks like Jack Black, which would be kind of hilarious if Jack Black plays Officer Dick.
That would be really funny. I mean, I remember the character of Officer Dick, and I could be wrong, but I thought that maybe like when you were skating around, he would make some stupid like cop comments and stuff, but I don't remember. But it was like one of those weird unlockables that you could get that was just kind of fun. One of those things back in the PS1 era that was kind of interesting. There isn't like much in modern games where I actually feel compelled or interested by unlockables. Like it was a big thing back in Tony Hawk to like unlock Spider-Man and shit like that and be able to play as those characters. And it was like a really cool thing. But nowadays it's like, oh, you've fucking unlocked a thing that you don't care about, like some new clothes or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's like the same thing now. It's just that it doesn't hit me the same way that it used to, but there used to be some really cool stuff like I feel like when I was a kid, unlocking the police officer or the security guard, to skate around in was always a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I think the different thing is now is that most things that you can unlock in games can be also like just like protected or whatever by a paywall. So a lot of people can just buy them now. But the other thing is it feels like back in the day, like a lot of unlockables now seem to be more skins and clothing articles that don't really affect gameplay at all. Back in the day, I remember like you could unlock characters for games and unlock, like you said, like Officer Dick or Spider-Man or Street Fighter. If you did something special, maybe you could unlock a hidden character. Or if you beat this, this, and this, then you get this guy. Streets of Rage 4, the remaster, they did have character unlocks. And that was exciting. But I feel like the majority of unlocks in games now aren't even worth unlocking because anything that would be worth unlocking, they're just going to say, oh, you can buy this character for $5 on the PSN, or you can buy this person for X amount of money and put them in your game. But they don't really seem to have any legit unlocks. The most legit unlock, I think, and it was like written into the game, though it wasn't even a secret, was the cool armor in Horizon. And I think there's a similar armor in Ghost of Tsushima, but I can't think of any unlocks that I was actually excited about. But those are both kind of story content. I don't know, man. You make a good point.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like it used to mean more, and now it's like they just all the stuff like that they add in is just kind of it's being sold to you in some way. It's not like in Tony Hawk where if you like did all this shit and completed all these tasks, like you could get to play as Officer Dick, who, while he still did the same tricks and everything like that, like I think if I'm not mistaken, like all the characters had like their own special like moves and stuff aside from the regular tricks and stuff.
They all had their own
like
special.
Officer Dick had his own like thing that was completely different than all these pro skaters that you were playing as, or like other games that had similar things where like old school fighting games used to have a lot of that kind of character unlocking and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. There's nothing really about it anymore about the unlocking stuff anymore that really like part of it too is probably games are so big now. Like why the fuck do I want to go out of my way an extra 10 hours to try and unlock some character that I'm going to be too exhausted to play by the time I get it, or like whatever, fuck it, just buy it, I guess.
Yeah, most of it seems like it's vanity items now that you can unlock, and a lot of like the fetch missions or whatever you want to call them, like the collectibles in games, like Ghost, for instance, like it's all costume stuff and all different armor colors, and there's like 4 or 5 sets of different armor that you can wear, which is all cool the way it works in the game. But after that, you're just picking up different headbands that look slightly different, or different swords that look slightly different, or none of that stuff really has any real gameplay difference as far as I can tell. I mean, the armor sets do for sure, but once you get the main armor sets, changing the colors of them or wearing a samurai mask and not wearing a samurai mask, which I kind of get because the photo mode's kind of a big deal in Ghost, and it is really awesome. But yeah, I hear you, man. Hey, did you see that marketing video? So it's just a general Sony marketing video where there are like real actors from the movies, like Tom Hanks playing as Mr. Rogers and other actors like in their roles in movies, but then like it splices in video game characters like Deacon from Days Gone and Aloy from Horizon and Miles Morales from Spider-Man and then Kratos. It was like really oddly jarring, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense because they're trying to be like, yeah, we're Sony. We have all this stuff. But like, it was so weird to cut from a like moving video of Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers to a shot of, I don't even know if the guy's name is Deacon. Is it Deacon?
Deacon, I think.
I don't know what it is, but St. John's or whatever from, yeah. And then it cuts to him and he's riding his motorcycle, but he's like a video game character. And he's like, says whatever the hell he says. And then like it cuts to some other famous actor in a movie. You know, it's a big cinematic thing. And then like it would smash cut to Aloy like riding this mechanical beast. And like they mashed like these different sources of entertainment together. And it was like, we are Sony or something like that. Did you see that? It was so weird.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of strange. I haven't seen that piece, but I have to imagine that Sony at this point, the PlayStation is such a huge part of their revenue stream and their brand that like I think it's still like the most successful Sony business. So it would almost be silly for them at this point to not include their, video games with the rest of the stuff that they're talking about in terms of their marketing, because video gaming isn't as taboo as it used to be. It's a little bit more mainstream for adults and stuff to be able to play video games even casually. So it kind of makes sense. I could just understand how it would be kind of weird though to see that kind of mashup going on. Just visually, it would be kind of a weird mashup.
Yeah, there was an obvious exclusion from that though. There was no Nathan Drake anywhere. So that kind of tells you that they're not really pushed. There also wasn't any Last of Us stuff, I don't think, in there either. But I don't know. Maybe Naughty Dog just didn't want to be a part of that. Evil 7, Jake, is the best-selling game in the Resident Evil franchise, which is awesome because that game was super dope. Have you ever gotten that back and played it in VR yet?
No, I haven't. It's one thing that I still would like to do at some point. It's just not been a priority. That's like one of those things that you want to do kind of when you don't have when you have downtime or whatever, and you want to like get your VR headset out and do something
like in the
with
winter.
It. But like, dude, the problem with these games we're playing now being so fucking long and me not having as much time to play them, because it's so nice out and everything, is like, I can't work on my backlog at all. So I've got all these things that I want to do. Like I want to check out like the biggest thing that I really do not want to forget is I want to check out all the new content in No Man's Sky. And that would be one thing that would kind of have helped me get my VR stuff out too, because then I could, I could try the VR mode out too. And then if I have that out, then maybe I would be motivated to possibly play Resident Evil 7 or whatever. But now we're coming into a situation where Resident Evil 8 is like coming out probably a year from now. So it's like, I could probably just wait until Resident Evil 8 comes out. But then I don't know if Resident Evil 8 is going to be fully playable in VR, which is probably fine by me, to be honest, because there's no way in hell I'm going to play the game all the way through in VR. I could be wrong.
I played at 7 the whole way through, dude.
Yeah, and I know people did, and I know people really liked it. It's really hard for me because I can only do it in like 30, 45-minute stints. Like my head starts to hurt, my eyes get kind of watery and shit like that. And you're only really supposed to play it for like an hour at a time anyway. Yeah. And I guess, I could do it or whatever, but I'm not really like that interested in doing VR for like the scary stuff. I'd honestly be more interested. The bigger mystery is why the hell I haven't played Skyrim VR yet.
Yeah.
I'd like to jump into that at some point too, probably more than Resident Evil VR or Astrobot VR missions. Yeah, that's supposedly so good. I really would like to try and play that as well. It's just a matter of getting it all out. It might honestly not happen until PS5, because when PS5 comes out, then I'll be able to like fully like refresh my entertainment stand and like get shit out of there that I don't use anymore and kind of reorganize everything. And then I can probably
get all the wires right.
That, okay, now is a good time to like see how I'm going to shoehorn the VR into this. And then maybe I can find a way to make it a little bit more usable. I'm really curious to see what they come out with the next VR unit, if they do another VR unit. Hopefully it's fucking wireless, because if they make a wireless VR unit, then I probably will be a lot more inclined to actually want to play it. Because if I can just go grab a headset and throw it on my head and sit on the couch or whatever, and I don't have to worry about like routing cords and how do I set all this stuff so that it's out of the way when I'm not using it and all this kind of crap. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll quit pestering you about VR. But every time Resident Evil 7 comes up, I just remember you mentioning how like you really wanted to try that again in VR. And I know I've been bugging you to play Astrobot Rescue Mission because it's amazing and you're missing out on some stuff. And I know the Squadrons is coming out in October, so I'm probably going to be picking that up. I still need to beat Moss. Let's keep moving on here because we missed last week. That's the majority of last week's news that I wanted to touch on. But this week here, last night or over the weekend, Rocksteady had a cinematic trailer for their Suicide Squads game, and it turns out it's called Suicide Squads Kill the Justice League. But the problem is it doesn't come out till fucking 2022, so who cares? And it's just like a cinematic thing. Jake, do you have any opinion on this?
This is one of those games this is one of those IPs, I guess I should say, that really has to fucking prove it to me, because there's nothing about what I saw in that trailer. I mean, it's kind of a funny trailer or whatever, but it's kind of campy or whatever, but like nothing about it to me, it screams like this is a video game I want to play. And maybe it's partially because I don't really I mean, it's not
like oh shit.
The DC stuff really doesn't jive with me at all. Like I never really got into many of the DC superheroes. In Suicide Squad, like I like the concept of them taking villains and like putting bombs in their heads to like make them kind of do what you want,
right?
Like, do kind of good, making bad people do good things by like, I don't know, blackmail is not the right word, but like, you know, basically threatening them with their lives.
Just manipulating them. Yeah, right.
You know, I don't know what the fuck is up with this evil Superman. You know, I know that there's a thing with him, you know, turning evil at some point in the comic book. But this is the problem with all this comic book shit, and the DC stuff in general is really bad, is that it's with all the movies that have been coming out, with all the video games, with the Arkham stuff, with the, you know, the Suicide Squad movie that came out and the Harley Quinn movie that came out and all this shit. It's like, what is this story? Like what is going on? And then, you know, I don't know if you saw that they announced like yesterday or the day before that the movie for the trailer for the new Batman movie. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like another Batman movie?
Yeah.
This is like, this is with Robert Pattinson, the guy from whatever the shitty movies were.
Twilight.
Like 5 or 10 years ago. Twilight. You know, and it's like, yeah, okay, it looks like somebody is just, you know, okay, well, Christopher Nolan did a dark and gritty Batman and it went pretty well. It's been about 3 years, or it's been longer than that. It's like, oh, it's been 5 years. Let's do another dark and gritty Batman movie. But it's not the same as the Batman movies from a few years ago. It's going to be a different Batman movie. And it's kind of weird and crazy. And I don't know. It's just, all this stuff is just too much for me. Like I would much rather, instead of them making a Suicide Squad fucking game, I would much rather them make an original IP that uses the Suicide Squad as inspiration. Like it would have been much, because that way I don't have to worry about the fucking story being all weird and like figuring out how it like ties in, if it ties into anything else. And like, do I have to play anything else to be like, am I going to have to play the fucking Arkham games? Are they going to try and tie that shit into this? I have no idea. And then obviously there's that other game that I'm sure we'll talk about. I watched that trailer too. And it's like, does that tie into this? Like, I have no fucking idea. So, because they're both Warner Brothers games. So like, are they in the same universe? I don't know. I guess I'm being a little bit harsh because we don't know anything about it so far. I'm just saying that like, I want to see gameplay of it. And anytime they introduce a thing like this, kind of like the Avengers game from Crystal Dynamics, it's like, it seems like it's going to be another one of those games where it's like, you know, it could be a multiplayer kind of, you know, semi-online kind of experience where maybe one person plays as Harley and one person plays as Sharkman or whatever the hell his name is. Like, I don't know. Or it could just be, you know, that there's just, I don't know, maybe you don't agree with me, but there's something weird about games where it's like, okay, you've got 4 or 5 main characters. So what are you going to switch between them? Is this going to, because that's like back in like the PS2 era of these types of video games where it's like, or like the Lego games, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to play as fucking Gandalf, and now I'm going to play as, Samwise, or now I'm going to play as Voldemort. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't think it does a very good job of telling a compelling story. But maybe Rocksteady, everybody loves the Arkham games. I haven't played them, but I'll take it on faith that those games are great games. And
they are good. I played two of them.
Kind of a plan for this.
They are good. Here's the thing. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I just feel like the thing with this kind of game is first off, it's not even 2021 yet. And they're building hype now. They have a full year. PlayStation 5 is going to come out at the end of this year. We're going to have a full year of PlayStation 5 shit going on. And this game won't even be out yet. So it's like one of those things where it's just like, I just don't understand why you're building hype this early. It just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like a game like this could probably...
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't understand. I agree with you. I don't understand why the hell they would announce just a cinematic. It's like freaking... I mean, it's not as bad as Bethesda announcing The Elder Scrolls 6, because The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be like 5 years from now. But like, it's a weird time. Like, why are you announcing it now? Like, it has nothing to do with the console launches. Like, it has nothing to do with, maybe it's just WB as a publisher coming out and saying like, oh, well, everybody else is saying shit that they're doing ahead of this new console launch. We got to say something, we got to say what we're working on. Everybody wants to know what the fuck's Rocksteady up to. What's Warner Brothers as a whole doing? Mm-hmm. And so they had to come out and say something before the next console launch. But to me, it's like, why? Like, why? Like, you could just say, Rocksteady is working on a new game or whatever. Because at this point, it's like, why would you announce it? It just seems to me. Now, granted, they did it with The Last of Us, and they did it with all kinds of other
games that we love,
like, okay,
studios that we love. Sure,
come out for 2 years. Yeah, but they shouldn't even put a fucking release date on it. At least just say like, oh, hey, the Suicide Squad game or whatever, and then let people at least maybe hope that it's coming out next year. Because I mean, I don't know why they would say that it's coming out. I don't know. I don't get the idea of like them announcing games and be like, hey, we're going to release a game that you really want, but we're not going to release it for like 4 years. So just be excited.
Yeah, that's the thing of it.
I don't like
that's the big thing with me is like, it just didn't make sense. But I mean, it looked fine what we saw, but I mean, I've seen a million awesome cinematic trailers for video games, but until we see gameplay or know what the game's all about, like, okay, cool, you're just showing us part of this franchise or part of this thing that maybe I'm into. And okay, cool. I'm glad that you're into this, and I'm glad you're making this game. With the impending onslaught of PS5 news and Xbox Series X news and all the new generation shifts and all this shit that's going on, it just seems like a terrible time to talk about a brand new game and not actually show gameplay, which I will segue into. Warner Brothers Montreal showed the other game you were talking about called Gotham Knights, and they had significant gameplay at least. This game actually looks kind of cool, but again, I don't know much about it, and I do like what I saw generally. I don't know that I'm very familiar with the 4 characters that they showed. It looks like it could be single player. It looks like it could be... I think they said that it could be co-op, 2-person co-op, which is interesting for a game like this. But what was your opinion of that? Like, I liked what I saw, and that's actually supposed to be coming out, I think, in 2021.
You know what that looked like to me? When I watched both of these trailers back to back, you know what I thought? I was like, you know what? I wonder if Rocksteady developed a fucking platform where you could have 4 heroes in this single player fucking thing, and you got a city and you can do all this stuff, and then they're like, we're going to do a Suicide Squad game, and then they shoveled all this shit over to Warner Brothers Montreal, and they're like, oh yeah, and we're going to make one that's just centric around dead Batman. And it's like, okay, like, I like the idea of a Gotham without Batman, like a Gotham after Batman dies. And I'll be curious to see like how he dies, like if somebody actually killed him, or if like he just kind of like, I don't know, up and died or something. I don't know. Or if like maybe he comes back at the end of the game or something, and he just like wants to see what the fuck would happen if he was gone or something. Or maybe he turns evil. I have no idea. But like, to me, it's like when I watch both of these games back to back, these trailers back to back, I'm like, these are like the same fucking games. Like, okay, Rocksteady is doing a game. It's going to be, the tone is going to be different because it's going to be from like an anti-hero perspective or a villain's perspective. It's not going to be from, you know,
and a little more
like a
slapstick
true hero
it seems
perspective, like the Gotham stuff would be. Right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, both of these, I mean, we didn't see any gameplay for the Rocksteady game, and we did see gameplay for the Gotham Knights thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, these, to me, just from watching both trailers back to back, they seem like they're going to be almost identical, aside from the story and the theme, or like the kind of theme of the game. But in terms of like the gameplay and everything. Now, is that bad? Maybe not. And especially if they come out a couple years apart or a year apart or something, and maybe Warner Brothers is like making a play for like an annualized thing where it's like, hey, you know, maybe like every year, every 2 years, we're going to come out with a game like this in the DEC universe. And you'll kind of know what it's going to play like, but maybe it's going to be explore a different story in the universe. And that could be okay. I mean, I'm not a big fan of annualized franchise. I think it kind of takes away from what they could be, but like, I don't know. Like we did see gameplay. It doesn't look like something I probably would play, just because I could be wrong. These games can surprise me or whatever. I don't know anything about these characters. It could be interesting. Like I said, the reason why to me it seems like it could be interesting is the idea of what are like the enemy organization, like the Owl's Nest or whatever the fuck they're called.
Right.
The Black Owls or the Hooters or whatever the hell they're called. I don't remember. But like it seems kind of ominous, and like the idea of like Batman being dead like is really cool, and you know, and everything, but I just don't know. I mean, I need to see like an actual gameplay segment where they're really playing the game, not this like, you know, vertical slice, like no HUD, no nothing, where it's just some footage of each of the characters kind of beating some people up, you know, because that doesn't really tell me anything. I need to know how it plays, because to be honest, if you look at the Arkham games, right, the Arkham games look really awesome when you watch somebody play them, but like the combat is a little bit heavy for me, and like I didn't really enjoy it as much as I should. But anyway, I digress. I don't want to talk too much shit on it because we just found out about this game. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah, there's enough negativity in the gaming world as it is, Jake. Quit shitting on everything. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. But it's, I think it'll probably be good. And I think that both of these games, both of these announcements are really good for the communities that is interested in these types of games. You know, like the comic book fans, I think especially the DC fanboys have really been drugged through the mud over the past.
Yeah, they haven't gotten much.
You know,
DC
5-10
Universe
years of like shitty fucking movies,
not DC
and
Universe,
all this stuff.
Injustice, Gods Among Us was probably the best.
Literally the only shining spot. Yeah, so Arkham and Injustice. I don't know if that's what you said, but that's basically the only thing I could think of that was even remotely good in the DC universe.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on. We talked about that all we need to, because there's not a whole lot out there. But if you guys haven't checked it out, that stuff's all online. You guys can watch videos for all that stuff. Jake, have you ever played the original Crysis game? Because I have never played it, but apparently it was a big deal, and it's getting a remaster for PS4 and PS5. If you have a PS4 Pro, it is going to have ray tracing.
I didn't think that the PS4 Pro was capable of ray tracing, which is weird. That sounds like a PS5 thing.
Yeah, so according to Push Square, let me see here. Crysis Remastered will support ray tracing on PS4 Pro.
That's wild. I wonder if it's like, because usually ray tracing is like something where they take advantage of a piece of hardware. So I wonder if the PS4 is natively capable of the PS4 Pro is natively capable of ray tracing, or if they are able to like kind of do it somehow in software.
So yeah, that's what it is.
It's cool. Like I'm not talking down on it all. That's pretty awesome.
It says that it's software based ray tracing made possible by the Crytek engine. It's different than the hardware based ray tracing that's a big part of Sony's next gen system. There's actually a trailer that shows it too, the tech trailer preview on Push Square, which is pretty cool. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I did play the original Crysis on PC when it first came out. That game was one of those games that was released and was like a boundary breaker in terms of technological accomplishment and in terms of like the type of gameplay, and like it just broke so many boundaries. It was on PC, so I understand that like maybe the world at large didn't play it as much. The Call of Duty crowd maybe didn't play it, but like it was so. I remember that game coming out and being like, the graphics of this game are so fucking good. The gameplay loop was so good. Like the suit that you had where you could like, do all these crazy abilities and like throw people through trees and like have like the trees freaking break apart and fall down and stuff, like all that environmental destruction stuff, with a few exceptions, was really not, a huge thing.
Right.
But the biggest thing about that game was just the graphics were so phenomenal for the time that they came out. And I'd be interested to jump back into it.
I've never
because
played
when
it.
I played it the first time, it was on PC and my PC could barely run it, So it's interesting. I think that I don't know. I don't remember how good it is from a story perspective or anything, but I would definitely be interested in jumping back into it. I might want to wait until PS5 just to get like the full on experience. I'd be interested in playing it again for sure.
Cool, man. Did you see that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War has a cinematic trailer now? It's pretty crazy. It's like it's like some Russian dude. I don't even know I should know who it was, but he was just like, there's winning this kind of a war doesn't take, it's a century-long war, essentially. He's like, it takes decades. It takes many decades. We'll slowly do this to your country. This will slowly happen. This will slowly happen. And then this is going to happen. And then you're just going to fail as a country. And it's like a real video clip of some dude, I think, some Russian talking shit. What's crazy is like he's talking about, the stock market crashing, slowly infiltrating the U.S., driving a wedge down the middle to separate us. You know what I mean? To de-unify the United States, to get us at war with one another, to do this and that. And then it's just absolutely incredible, because I'm like, holy shit. Like I thought when they were talking about the Cold War, maybe they were talking about, but maybe it's a reference to like maybe it's like a what if situation. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about it. Did you see this trailer? It was crazy. It was pretty effective.
I have not seen it. It wouldn't surprise me if they were trying to take advantage of the unrest in America right now. It kind of makes sense, and it would be kind of a compelling story to really kind of present to the player. I haven't seen anything about it. I mean, Call of Duty is one of those things where it's like, it's hard for me to care about it till it actually comes out. And then when it comes out, I'll see if I'll play. I haven't even played the last couple Call of Duty games. Usually I try to always play the single player campaign at least. I mean, I've played most of them. I haven't even played the last couple that came out, and I hope it's good or whatever. It's just that like, Call of Duty is one of those games where I know it's so big in the multiplayer space, and people love it for the new maps and the new guns and the new this and the new gadgets and the new that and everything, especially with the Warzone stuff, with the Battle Royale mode or whatever. But it's one of those things where it's like time is flying by so fast nowadays, where it's like I feel like I'm getting a new Call of Duty game like every other week.
Yeah,
I know it sounds.
Well, we've been getting a lot with PlayStation
wild,
Plus,
but it's like it's hard for me to care.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah, that's true.
I gave you a link to that trailer if you want to check it out. It's kind of wild. I thought it was really, really kind of interesting. It's only like a minute long. Let me see here. I don't know if you saw, but I'm going to go over the games coming out here. PlayStation Drop apparently fell off the face of the earth. No one knows why, but it's no longer on the Sony blog. I'm going to talk about the games that came out last week and then the games coming out this upcoming week. I'm going to get to our main section of the podcast today. We're going to talk about our top 5 games of the generation. So games coming out to PSN last week, according to Pushware, they were Hunt of Tanks and Demons, Mortal Shell, Peaky Blinders Mastermind, Train Sim World 2, New Super Lucky's Tale, which I understand was a Switch exclusive, and now it's available on PS4, PGA Tour 2K21, Samurai Jack, Battle Through Time, and then games coming out to the PS. And this week, according to pushsquare.com, Descenders, No Straight Roads, Street Power Soccer, Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series, which I think had already been released on PC, The Suicide of Rachel Foster, Final Fantasy Chronicles Remastered Edition, Hypnospace Outlaw, and then Captain Tsubasa Rise of New Champions, Madden NFL 21, Project Cars 3, Wasteland 3, and Windbound, all coming out this week or last week. So that's a lot of new games. I think the standouts for me look to be PGA Tour 2000, 2K21, perhaps the Final Fantasy Chronicles Remastered Edition, and of course everyone's probably going to be jacked about Madden NFL 21. I don't know that I see anything else. Vader, maybe. Vader Immortal, a Star Wars VR series, looks pretty sweet. That's all I got as far as games coming out, Jake. Do you want to get to our main topic? Are you watching that trailer at all?
Did you say that Wasteland 3 came out this week?
It's coming out August 28th.
Okay, so it's coming out on Friday. I mean, because that's a pretty big release. I don't know if you played the Wasteland games, but Wasteland is like a pretty big like cult tactical RPG kind of game, and like if you like games like XCOM and stuff like that, you'd probably really like Wasteland. I played Wasteland 2 a little bit when it came out. I played Wasteland 2 a little bit when it came out. I really liked it. The problem is that when Wasteland 2 came out, it was kind of like a PC port to console, so a lot of the UI and the HUD and everything was really kind of hard to read and everything because the text was all kind of small and shit. So I'd be interested in looking at Wasteland 3 to see, if they've optimized it a little bit better for consoles. It might be a really interesting game. And Fred, you might actually really like it if you wanted to get back into a tactics RPG, kind of like XCOM and stuff. Because imagine if it was like XCOM, like the tactics RPG combat, but instead of all the base buildy shit that you've got to deal with in XCOM, instead it's like an actual like RPG story where you're more it's not quite as scripted and as wooden as like Final Fantasy Tactics. You're actually like wandering around the world like an action RPG where you're talking to people and having conversations and doing all this stuff and picking dialogue and all that crap. But then like you get to the combat sections and it's like and then it turns into like an XCOM type game where you've got all this cover-based kind of shooting and everything, and you kind of adjust the loadouts of all your characters. It takes place in like a post-apocalyptic kind of Fallout-esque sort of world. It's pretty freaking legit. I mean, you might actually really like it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the site now. It's on inexileentertainment.com. It says it's a party-based role-playing game with renewed focus on trademark complex story, reactivity, and strategic combat. Adds a player vehicle, environmental dangers, and a revamped, more fluid action system. We're evolving on Wasteland 2's tactical turn-based combat and unique counter design. Play solo or co-op with a friend in a story-driven expansion where your choices will open up or close off mission opportunities, areas to explore, story arcs, and more. Your ranger base is a core part of the experience as you help the local people and establish reputation in Colorado. Quest and narrative will force you to make decisions on how to lead. Set in the savage lands of frozen Colorado where survival is difficult and a happy outcome is never guaranteed. Players will face difficult moral choices and make sacrifices that will change the game world. Wasteland 3 will feature a deep and engaging story utilizing a new dialogue system with all of it fully voiced. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm interested. I had no idea what this was about, but I'm looking at some of the pictures and stuff from the gameplay. It looks pretty sick. There's a trailer I'm sure I'll check out here after the podcast. But thanks for sharing that, Jake. That's also looks like it might be a cool one if you guys are into that. So the top 5 PS4, Jake, shall we? Let's get into it. Top 5, not PS4 games, but games of the generation. You and I had discussed that we wanted to do something special for the show, and I thought it was important that we do that. I suggested let's do our top 5 games for the generation that are available to play on the PS4. I don't think that I said they had to be exclusive to PlayStation. Did I? I think that just they had to be available. They had to be made for this present generation.
Yeah, no, basically the rules we came up with were that they had to be PS4 games. They don't have to be exclusive or anything. And we also agreed that there would be like an obvious list. Like you're not going to hear either of us say like
Red Dead 2,
Uncharted 4. You're not going to hear either of us say Red Dead 2 or The Last of Us Part 2. You know, there are some other
Horizon,
PlayStation exclusive games that I would say aren't on the obvious list. But Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon, both of those were kind of excluded.
Obvious.
But yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that you might not hear in either of our lists. You're like, why the fuck did they not say that? And it's because, like, duh, okay, The Last of Us Part 2 is on this list. You know, it's obvious that we're going to have Uncharted 4 on there because we love Uncharted so much. It's obvious that we're going to have Horizon on there because that game is amazing. God of War, same thing. So this is just, and to be completely fair with you, Fred, and maybe the listeners in general, my list is not necessarily what I think is the best games of the generation. It's more what my favorite games of the generation are and what I got the most playtime out of. Like the games that I really took advantage of the most, the ones that really, like, I guess, impacted my gaming experience the most, I guess I could say.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Jake, because I kind of took the same route. The route that I kind of took was if somebody is just now getting a PS4 and outside of the obvious games, if I were to recommend 5 other games to them that in my head, I felt really confident that they would have a fairly good, enjoyable experience with these games, then this is the kind of way that I went. Now, I don't know if you have a runner-up or not, a runner-up list, and I do have one. I've got a few that I'd like to throw on at the end, but I do have 5 that I think are games that I spent a lot of time with this generation that really, really, I felt myself keep coming back to these games, or at least they've left some sort of impression on me, where I was like, wow, that was really good. Now, do you want to start off with one? Or you want to alternate? How do you want to do this?
We can alternate, go back and forth. Okay. And then, you know, that way it'll give us a chance to, like, you know, if you pick a game that is on my list, and like you said as well, I also have kind of an honorable mentions list, so it'll allow me to kind of adjust and pick something else if you pick something that's on my list. So, because that way we'll be able to get, you know, some. I tried to have some extras. That way we can come up with 10 kind of unique titles.
Sounds good, man.
You can go first. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to just say the most obvious one. If you've listened to the podcast, you know that this game resonated with me a ridiculous amount, and I wanted to have an open world game on my list that would suck up a ton of time and was worth bang for your buck. And this game came out in May of 2015. Just so you know, the PlayStation 4 was released in November of 2013. So this game came out after the PS4 was released, and I believe it was made. I don't think you can get this on the PS3, and this may be an obvious one, but I don't think it's that obvious. I was gonna, even though it sold really well, I'm gonna go The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt.
I mean, I didn't put that on my list specifically because I knew you would have it, so it was obvious to me. But I could see that maybe, you know, the casual crowd may or may not. I think that, like, The Witcher 3 would be a more obvious choice nowadays because, especially with the TV show and stuff, the game has gotten much, much more popular.
In 2015, though, probably not.
But yeah, I mean, that's a solid choice.
Yeah. Thanks, Jake. Yeah.
In 2015, no, when the game first came out, yeah, it definitely wasn't as, like, when it first came out, yeah, it had some pretty big rumble in the industry, and, like, everybody was like, this game's fucking awesome. But it took a minute for that game to pick up steam, and then it got pretty big, and then it kind of went away for a while, and then the TV show came out and it fucking exploded again. So yeah, it's a good choice.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there's just something about that game for the listeners. If you haven't played this game, it's just everything that you do in this game feels relevant. It's a long game. The graphics still hold up. It's a really big game. The story's good. The combat took a little bit of getting used to, but as you progress through the game, like most games, you just start getting it, and you start feeling more powerful, more in control of your character. The DLC that came with the game, and you can get this game for $20 with all the DLC, which is well over 100 hours of gameplay, I'd say. But it's absolutely a great game made by CD Projekt Red. So that's on my top 5 list of the generation, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. Jake, what is one of yours?
So before I get into my first game, I just wanted to comment that, like, I will honestly say, even though Ghost of Tsushima is on our obvious list for games we would pick, I would say that there are so many things that Ghost of Tsushima does that were clearly influenced by The Witcher. And I have to be completely honest with you. I think The Witcher is a better game, and it does the things better than Ghost of Tsushima does. Don't get me wrong. I love Ghost of Tsushima. I haven't beat it yet, but I really, really like it. And I think that it does a lot of things really well. But I think that even if we weren't relegating Ghost of Tsushima to the obvious list, I would say that The Witcher deserves to be on your list more than Ghost of Tsushima, even though it is a Sony exclusive title.
I agree. That's a good observation, because when I first saw the gameplay stuff, the state of play for Ghost of Tsushima, I did a video on our YouTube channel, and I said, man, this game looks a lot like The Witcher. All the other reviews and commentary I saw on that gameplay, nobody brought up The Witcher. And I was like, how are you guys not seeing this? Like, this is so much like The Witcher. The trees, the graphics, the horse, the sword fighting, all that stuff. But yeah, I agree 100%. Jake, give me a game.
Okay, so the first game that I'm going to pick, but picked it because I tried to kind of make my list sort of like, I didn't want to have a bunch of games that were all the same genre, so I picked a bunch of games that are all different genres.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to kind of represent my interest across my entire gaming, interest sphere or whatever. So the first game that I picked because I think it's a great game, and I knew 100% you wouldn't have this on your list because I don't think you've ever played it, is Persona 5. And I picked that game because it is a JRPG, which I typically am not a huge JRPG fan. I mean, I like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, but I'm not like this this JRPG connoisseur, like going out and playing all these games or whatever. But after playing Persona 4 Golden on my Vita, I decided to pick up Persona 5 after it came out. And aside from the fact that I think the game is way too fucking long, I think that it's just an awesome experience. And I think that it's really the pinnacle of, I don't know, Fred, you've probably at least seen screenshots and stuff about like with this game or whatever.
Yeah.
But the menu systems and everything, the game is such a piece of art visually that it is that alone is one of those things that could get it on the list. But the story's pretty good. The story is not as good as Persona 4. The gameplay is much better than Persona 4. I have a guy that I used to work with who kind of got me to play the Persona games. And I had this conversation with him where I was like, man, if they could just take Persona 4 and give it like the story of Persona 4, but give it the gameplay of Persona 5, it would be like one of the greatest games ever made. But even still said, I mean, Persona 5 is a really, really great game. Now, I haven't played the new Persona 5, the Royal version or whatever. They like added a character and a story arc and all this kind of crap. But from what I understand, you still have to play like this super long experience. They don't make it. The one thing that I don't like about the game, and I will say this, is that the first time I played the game, I think it took me 114 hours to beat just the main story. I didn't even get all of the side stuff done. And it took me 114 hours to beat the game. The second time I played it through, even on New Game Plus, with all of the advantages I could possibly give myself, it still took me, I think, 85 hours to beat the game. So the game is way too fucking long. It's way too long. But that said, that's the only negative thing I really have to say about it. I think it's a really, really great game. And people who want to dip their toes into JRPGs but don't want to go full hardcore, the Persona franchise is something that you could really get into. I would recommend 5 and to a lesser extent 4 Golden if you have a Vita, but most people don't have Vitas. So Persona 5 is probably your entry. And it is really accessible, and it's a fun game to play, and the story is really interesting. But I will say that be prepared for a long fucking slog, because it is really long.
I might dive into that at some point in my life. We'll see. Just not yet. That's a good game, though. I know my brother absolutely adores that game, and I know that anyone who's really played it has pretty much held the same opinion about it that you hold, is that it's just fantastic. Maybe the story's not quite as good as Persona 4 Golden. So interesting, man. All right, Jake, I like it. I approve. Even though I've never touched the game, I think that definitely deserves to be on the list just based on what I've heard about everyone else's opinion of that game. And you're right. Yeah, it's nowhere near on my list. Didn't even cross my mind. Okay, my second game. This is a bit out of left field. We brought it up earlier on the podcast, and like Jake, I kind of wanted to bring up a game that it's available on the PS4, but I really think that there's something really truly special about this, and I think it could be a really good franchise for PlayStation if they just chase it a little bit more and they do the right stuff with it. We have something coming out on the PS5 for this, but I'm going to go out and just say that Astrobot Rescue Mission. I played this game and my mind was literally just fucking blown. This game is so good. It's VR. It's literally like Mario in like VR, except it's Sony's own shit. And like they really got something special with that game. And if you have a VR headset and you haven't played Astrobot Rescue Mission, you got problems. I think that's what it's called, is Astrobot Rescue Mission. But that game came out and it blew my mind. And I wanted to have some kind of game that was like some fun for the whole family kind of deal. And we'll get to the runner up. So there was at least one other one that made my list that kind of fit this mold, but it didn't blow my mind. And yeah, it's a great game, but it didn't do what Rescue Mission did for me. And I know you haven't played it, Jake, but I really, really think you need to give this game a whirl. Like, it's absolutely amazing. It's such a fantastic title, dude. So good. Anyone who's played it will tell you that. I don't even know what the Metacritic rating is on it, but I'm sure it's great. I'm going to look it up. But go ahead. Give me another game, Jake.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but fantastic stuff about Rescue Mission. That is one VR game that I really do want to play. With other stuff we talked about earlier in the podcast, like Resident Evil 7 and stuff, it's like I do want to get back into it, but I could ultimately take it or leave it. If I never get back to it, it's not going to kill me. But Rescue Mission is one of those games that I have to play eventually.
It's got a 90 on Metacritic.
So I would really like to. Wow, that's really good. Maybe one of these days it'll be on sale enough that it'll just kind of force me to just go ahead and fucking do it.
So, my real quick. I was just going to say, for anyone who follows anything on Metacritic, just to give you an idea, and I didn't know this was the score, but it's got a better critic score than Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cuphead, Neo 2, MLB The Show 20, Ghost of Tsushima, Streets of Rage 4. It's got better ratings than all those games. The only games that have it beat on the current PS4 game list as far as Metascore, looks like it's Persona 5 Royal, The Last of Us Part 2, Pistol Whip. I don't even know what that is. And those are the ones that are showing right now, the current PS4 games on the list here. I don't know, but I just absolutely crazy that Astrobot is rated that high, but no one freaking talks about it. Go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry. You have to play the game. It's so good.
That's right. Yeah, that's good to know. My next pick, and if anybody's listened to the podcast before, they probably know that I love this game, is Doom 2016. Now, I know that like people are gonna probably crawl out of the woodwork and be like, Doom Eternal is a better game and it evolves on the blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, yes, I agree with you. Doom Eternal is objectively a better game than Doom 2016. But I personally got a much better experience and was like the first time I played it, it was like playing Last of Us for the first time, the first Last of Us. It's like that game blew my mind. Like all the little things, like how you could find the little Doomarine dolls and like unlock like the OG Doom levels. You could find them by pulling these levers, secrets inside of the world, and how they like brought back the arcade shooter. They somehow married like the super great like graphics and like modern stylings with like, they somehow married that with the classic fucking fast-paced Doom gameplay, no reloading, just craziness. And they added some like newer RPG kind of elements and upgrade systems to it. Like the game is, in my opinion, it's fucking brilliant. And it gave me just this experience that I yet to be replicated in the first person shooter space since then. And I just can't say enough good things about it. I mean, I even went as far as to get the platinum in that game, which isn't exactly super easy. Doom 2016 is my game number 2. And Fred, I think I let you borrow it, right? You played it, so you should know a little bit about it.
Yeah,
right?
it had that one level that was just like, was it like a courtroom or something? It was like I don't know. There was one level. It was like next to impossible, if that was the game I'm thinking of. There was like some sort of thing towards the end. You get busted out of jail or something, or you're trying to, it's a minor spoiler, I don't know. Towards the end, don't you get captured or something in this game? The Doom game? No, I'm thinking Wolfenstein. Shit. I'm thinking Wolfenstein.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what you're talking about. Although I will say, I don't know if, hopefully it's not on your list. I don't think it is, but Wolfenstein, The New Order would be a fucking really great parallel with Doom 2016. Just what Bethesda did with revitalizing those two franchises in the PS4 generation is fucking incredible. Say what you will about Fallout 4 and, you know, Fallout, whatever the fuck, 76 and like all this other shit that kind of Bethesda has been flushing down the toilet over the past couple years. The shit that, like, what they did to revitalize Doom and Wolfenstein is just amazing for the PS4 life cycle.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I did play Doom also. I did play and beat that. That last boss was kind of crazy. I did enjoy Doom quite a bit. I will say that I personally enjoyed the Wolfenstein games a little bit better than Doom, but to each their own, man. I think it's a good pick. You know, clearly that game did really well enough to warrant them to do the next one and to keep it going, you know? So, and they even did a VR version. 2 VR games. They had like the cyber, didn't they have like a cyber game where you were like part of the cyber dog or cyber demon or something? And then they also had like Doom VR. There was a cyber demon Wolfenstein.
Well, they had the Doom VFR game. They had the you played as like a Panzerhound pilot or something like that from Wolfenstein, which is like the big mechanized dog, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
I get them confused.
Something like that. Like one of them was a Wolfenstein adventure.
But Doom 2016, man, good call. I'm going to go out and bring up another game we already talked about on the podcast, strangely enough. I wanted to have a game to kind of, you know, spark the heebie-jeebies in you. And while this game is a game available on this generation of consoles, it was also available on PSVR. And the game is Resident Evil 7. Jake, that game was so good. I'm not even a Resident Evil fan, but I really got into that game. And I did play it all in VR my first playthrough. And that's the only way I ever played it. But I don't know, man. The game's fabulous. I remember coming over to your house when you had the VR headset pretty new and you put me in the headset. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That game's so good. It's just a really good game. It's just such a good game. Resident Evil 7 was such a good game. So that's another game for you.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 is a great, I mean, that's another example of a publisher just revitalizing a franchise. Now, this isn't a reboot. It's a continuation of the franchise. They moved from third person to first person. They added the VR component. Resident Evil 7 is a great fucking game and a great kind of revitalization of the franchise. I actually have it on my runner-up list. I decided not to include it in my main 5, but yeah, I definitely was thinking about that as one of the best games of the generation for sure.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so if you're into the scary games, Resident Evil 7 is good.
I'm going to pick something a little bit kind of weird, just like you were talking about. And I mean, I guess Resident Evil 7 is exactly a weird title, but like one of the games that I want to pick is a VR title also because it is part of the PS4 life cycle, the PS4 generation. You can play it without VR, but it's, let me just say,
I know where you're going.
I picked Thumper.
Yeah.
As one of my next games. The reason why I say you can play it you play it on PS4 without PSVR, dude, don't fucking play this game unless you're going to play it in PSVR. I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Because this game is what actually fucking sold me on PSVR. I played the games like Battlezone and I played the shit like, you know, some of the other VR games like the Eve thing where you're like flying the spaceships and shit like that. And all that was well and good. But until I played Thumper in VR and just had that visceral experience of like, the game is just like somehow it's a rhythm game, but it somehow like strikes fear into you when you're playing it and unease, like just the soundtrack and the visuals and like these weird boss fights that they have. Like it is so fucking good. Like it was one of those games where my wife saw me playing it and she actually wanted to jump in to PSVR and try it. Like it is such a good game. And I hope they do like a sequel or a spiritual successor or something with like the next VR. Yeah, Thumper is my next title because I think that it was one of those like early PSVR games that I think is just a top-notch reason to buy the hardware.
Dude, that's great. I love that game. I did finally beat it. It was, man, what a crazy experience. And yeah, I second what you said about needing to play it on VR. I've tried it on the flat screen, and it doesn't even hold a flame to the VR version. And not enough people talk about this game either. It's weird. People should be talking about that game. Jake, this next one's really weird because I remember looking back on the game while I was playing the game. It was very frustrating, but looking back at the game and the story that it told and my time with it, I really feel like it was a special game. And there was a lot of hype about it. And it's a little out there because I was surprised that I put it on my list. How I came up with my list is I looked at all the games that I had played, and then I whittled it down to a bunch of other games, whittled it down to the games that I felt like had something maybe a little special about them. And then I tried to pick some games that were a little more on the unique side that were special. You know what I mean? So, and I know you haven't played this game. And I know when I played this game, I vented to you about it. I vented on the podcast about some of the shit that it would do that would just piss me off. But ultimately, the game was good. And it was really interesting, and it was ambitious. So I'm going to throw out The Last Guardian. I think is a great game that came out this generation that is a little underrated because of some of the game mechanics not really working as smoothly. So if you can put your frustration aside and just get through this game, like what you take away from the game is so much is worth the stress that it can cause you. I really think so. I think the game was something special. So I don't know. I wanted to throw that out there. It is a Sony exclusive game also. So I wanted to at least have one of those on there. So The Last Guardian, there you go. It's on my top 5 of the generation that falls under all those big title games.
So the one comment that I will make about The Last Guardian, you're right, Fred, I didn't play it. But the pretty much the reason why I didn't play it is, one, the game was very divisive whenever it was coming out because it took like literally 15 years to make, which doesn't make any sense. One of the things that I have heard about the game that is the biggest drawback is that all of the controls and the camera and everything are super antiquated. Back when the same team did Eco and Shadow of the Colossus and all that. And, you know, that was a big complaint about Shadow of the Colossus and Eco and all that, is just like how shitty the controls were and the camera and everything. And apparently they drug all of that crap into The Last Guardian, which is really unfortunate because from what I understand, basically like what you're telling me is that the experience is pretty good. Now, the other comment that I would say about it is that like the PS3 generation kind of burned me out on a lot of these kind of emotional, minimal experiences because we had a lot of games like Journey and Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons and stuff like that we played. And it was like, okay, like when those games came out, they were special because nothing did anything like that.
Right.
Really to kind of compare to it. But then like in the PS4 generation, I didn't play as many of those games, even though people would say that yeah, these are really good experiences. I look at it and I'm like, okay, this is a minimal kind of adventure type experience, but is it going to be as good as Journey? Like, is it going to be as good as Gone Home? And like, right. I know that's not fair for me to think that way about these games. And I know that the game is really good, but that just kind of informs the audience as to why, like, I didn't like jump right on top of playing it. Plus, you know, you looked at the reviews and like some people gave it a 5 and some people gave it a 10. So it was like really divisive. It was like one of those things where it's just like, well, I guess I just got to fucking play it and find out.
Right.
But I'm really glad that you liked it. And it kind of gives me some hope that maybe one day I'll play it. It is not a game that I've played as of yet.
Yeah, it stuck with me, man.
So the next game that I'm going to pick is kind of like it's an open world game. I don't think I have any open world games on this list yet. Nope. So this is my one and only open world game on my list, and it is a game, Fred, I don't even think you've played. It almost kind of took that Skyrim spot for me.
Wow.
So like when I say that, I mean Skyrim has historically filled a spot for me where it's like, this is comfort food for me. This is an open world kind of go do whatever you want kind of game that like I can come back to once a year, once every couple years. And even though I've played it all the way through and, you know, all this shit, like it's something that I can go and I can just wander around and I can feel comfortable and kind of be enamored with the world and like being in the world and everything. And kind of the game that sort of did that for me, other than Skyrim Special Edition, in the PS4 generation was Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5 to me was a really great open world experience. I think part of the reason why it struck a chord with me is that it takes place in rural America, which, I live in rural America. I don't live in, Montana, but I live in rural America. So like I get a lot of the commentary that they're making in the game about, religious fanaticism and all that kind of like the hillbilly caricatures and stuff that they have in there, and everything like really kind of, it makes a lot of sense because that's sort of the world that I live in real life, being from rural America. Obviously we don't deal with like religious fanatics, taking over the town with their weapons. Like we don't have to deal with that, but like, we understand the mentality of a lot of the people in these games or in this game. So like it really struck a chord with me. And then the shooting's really good. Like the Far Cry mechanic is still there, capturing all the outposts and doing all that stuff is all really great. Is it as good as the gold standard of Far Cry games, which is Far Cry 3? I would say that Far Cry 5 is probably the best Far Cry game, but did it have the same impact as Far Cry 3 in terms of the industry and everything? I don't think so. A lot of people don't think that it's as good as Far Cry 3. I think that's a lot of people just kind of putting a lot of weight on Far Cry 3 because of the impact that it had to the industry. Kind of like the Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3 situation, where a lot of people like Uncharted 2 more than Uncharted 3 just because it had such a huge impact, whereas I personally believe Uncharted 3 is objectively a better game. Enough about Uncharted. This is about Far Cry. Far Cry 5, great game. Anyone that's into like a light RPG, open world shooter, the Far Cry kind of checkbox mechanics and everything, a lot of the crazy shit that happens. You'll be wandering around and all of a sudden you'll get like mauled by a bear or like start a fire or something like that. It's awesome. I really recommend everybody play it.
Nice. That's a good choice. You're right. I haven't played that one. I did play Far Cry 4 or Far Cry 3. I can't remember which one I played, but I did beat whatever one it was that I did play. I get those games confused also. Lastly, Jake, I picked a game. This one was really kind of tough for me to figure out. I have a lot on the runner-up, man. I'm not going to lie. I have 5 games on runner-up list because they're all good games. So what I wanted to do was essentially, and we should have probably preface this with, this list are only games that both you and I have played. Maybe we haven't both played the game, but we have played the games that we're talking about. So there's a good chance there's a game that could have been on this list or should have been on the list that neither Jake or I have played. So I will say that I was really surprised by this game. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. And I'm just going to go out there and just drop it on you guys. The Ratchet and Clank remaster was remake, rather. It was a remake. Was really, really good. That game came out April 2016. It seems like just yesterday, but it has been now 4 years and then some. But that game was really, really fantastic. It came at the right time when I needed a game like that. Those kind of games are just so innocent. And Jake and I have talked about some of these more happy-go-lucky kind of games. I mean, the story wasn't necessarily all happy-go-lucky, but it's always comical filter over it. And those kind of, it's like watching a Pixar movie or something. And it was just so crisp. The graphics were great. The gameplay was great. All the different weapons was great. The voice acting was great. It was just a great game. And again, I wanted to have something out there. So maybe if you don't have the VR headset, wanted a game that would be fun for the family, something that everybody could enjoy, something that you wouldn't have to turn off when the kids come in the room. So Ratchet and Clank, man, it was a great game. It was a great game. I'm glad that Sony's still doing stuff with it. And now we get to look forward to a Rift Apart for the PS5 coming out soon. So Ratchet and Clank is definitely on my list.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank is a great title. It's on my runner-up list for sure. I kind of suspected that maybe you might want to pick that one, so I didn't put it on my main list. But Ratchet and Clank is for sure one of the best titles of the generation. I mean, the 3D platformer, the mascot platformer, all of that up until the Ratchet and Clank remake came out was basically dead. I mean, they didn't really exist anymore other than like Knack, which was a shitty game. So, the fact that they brought Ratchet and Clank back, and they brought it back in such a way, I guess you could kind of say almost that the PS4 generation is almost kind of like the the generation of the, I don't want to say reboot, but like the reimagining or like the revitalization, you know, all these games we've talked about, like Wolfenstein and Doom and Resident Evil and Ratchet, like all these games, they refreshed them and made them great again, which is awesome. And I hope they carry that over into the next generation, because a lot of those games were getting really stale.
Yeah, I agree.
And we didn't get any Ratchet and any decent Ratchet game for years and years. So this is a really, really great choice. My last title is probably, I'm honestly surprised it hasn't come up till this point, but is literally the second game I ever fucking played on my PS4 because we got it free on PS Plus, and I still to this day believe it's one of the best games PS4 has to offer. And without further ado, that game is Resogun. That game is so fucking good. You can beat that game in literally like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You can get through all 8 stages or whatever. But it takes a long time to master that game. And I got so freaking addicted to Resogun when I first played it. I think at one point in time, like they completely eradicated the leaderboards now, so it doesn't even the record doesn't even exist anymore.
Really?
But I think at one point in time I was like 18th or 18th in the world or something like that on the novice difficulty for Resogun. So in terms of high score, that says something about how fucking obsessed with the game that I was. And it's just the formula that the twin stick shooter, you know, wrapping around this cylinder thing and trying to rescue all these little guys and trying to, chase that high score and everything. I'm typically not that kind of gamer, but something about this game just really grabbed me. And I think that it is an absolute must play for anybody who has a PS4. It's actually on Vita too, but it doesn't run nearly as well on Vita. It doesn't look nearly as well. So I would play it on PS4 if you're even remotely interested in games like Galaga or Asteroids or anything like that. This game is absolutely a must play. It is so good.
Yeah, Jake, I second that. That's a good choice. I was really into this game when it came out. I remember just playing it. I was like, wow, why do I like this so much? Why is this so much fun? Why does it look so good? Like, it was a really weird game for me to initially really enjoy, Resogun. But it definitely grew on me, and now it didn't sink its hooks into me as much as it did with you, because I know you were completely a fanatic about this game for a while. I remember you being on leaderboards and stuff. But that is awesome. That's a great choice, and what a great way to close out the generation. Who would think that, you know, the second free PS Plus game when the PlayStation 4 was released would still have this kind of staying power? And I'm curious to see what the Metacritic score is for Resogun. To be honest, I mean, it's got to be good. It's got an 84. That's a great score considering it came out so early. I mean, it's put a lot of games. Yeah, I mean, it's better than Ghost of Tsushima, better than Streets of Rage, according to Metacritic. So that's cool. That's cool, man. That's a great choice. Do you want to talk about our runner-ups? How do you want to do this? You just name yours and I'll name mine, and then if we cross over, we'll just say that.
Okay, yeah. So my runner-up list is a little bit longer than that. I have 6 runner-ups. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'll just kind of blast through my list real quick, and you can blast through yours. We might have some crossover. Yeah. I'm not going to go into detail about any of these games, but even though these are not in my top 5 games that in any day, depending on my mood, I could have maybe swapped out one of my top 5 for one of these games. Right. That's basically, when I say that these are runner-up games, I mean that like these games are absolute must plays on the PS4, in my opinion. Sure. Regardless of whether or not they made my top 5. Sure. So if you're just buying a PS4 and you want some games to play, like,
this is an awesome list we're making,
including both of our top 5s and the obvious list that we excluded. So my 5 games, or sorry, 6 runner-up games. I'll start with the first one is Axiom Verge, which was a Metroidvania style, like indie title, pixel art. Really great graphics, just a super, super solid game. That game is so good. Yeah. The next title that I have on my list is, Fred talked about Resident Evil 7. I already marked that off my list, but I have another horror game on this list, which I think is an absolute must play. Created by Shinji Mikami, who was the creative director of Resident Evil 4. That is The Evil Within. And that game is just fucking spot on. And I know, Fred, I don't think you've played it all the way through. And I know you wanted to borrow it from me, but I don't think you've ever actually.
Yeah, I've never played any of it.
but The Evil Within is just a solid fucking game.
Yeah.
Next on my list, I have, as far as like adventure kind of story kind of games go, Life is Strange Season 1, I think is fucking fantastic. And I'll even include Before the Storm in there. Before the Storm is much more dark than the main Life is Strange storyline, but I think that package, Before the Storm into Life is Strange, is great. Originally, I thought that maybe you should play Before the Storm before Life is Strange because that's how they are chronologically. But I don't know if that's true or not. I'm afraid I don't know enough about it. I don't remember enough about it that if you play Before the Storm, it might ruin some of the story of Life is Strange.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but those two games should be played for sure. The last three games I have are, the first one is a goofy game called Headlander, which is it was an Adult Swim published game, another Metroidvania style game where you're a disembodied human head and you literally just fly around in a space station that's just basically everybody downloaded their consciousness into robots. And so, but you're like a disembodied human head. And so you just kind of fly around and you take over robot bodies to sort of solve puzzles and traverse through the game. It's a really, really great indie Metroidvania style game. And it's like silly and it's fun. The last two I have on here are, the first one is Nier Automata. By the time I got done playing that game, I didn't want to fucking see that game ever again in my entire life, because in order to get the full story of Nier Automata, you have to play it 3 fucking times, which is really annoying. But other than that, that game I think is really great. I really like what they did with the different play styles. Like 1 minute, like when you start the game, you're playing like a top-down flight shooter, and then it turns into like this third-person action game, and then there are these sections where it's like a side-scrolly kind of action game. Like, it is really, really interesting. The game is really interesting. The last one I have on my list is Detroit Become Human.
Ooh.
Which I think it's the last Quantic Dream game, the last exclusive Quantic Dream game. I think their Quantic Dream is going to be going multi-platform after Detroit. So it won't be PlayStation exclusive anymore. And I think actually Detroit is available on PC now. But that said, Detroit Become Human, great fucking game. A lot of quick time events and dialogue choices. You know, you can kill characters and all that kind of stuff. Typical Quantic Dream stuff like Heavy Rain and everything. But really great title. So I don't know if any of those overlap with you, Fred, but why don't you kick it off with your runner-up list?
Strangely, none of them overlapped. That's crazy. I thought that we would have at least one, dude. I wanted to make mine the same length as yours, so I threw this one on just last minute here, just now, because I was thinking about Housemarque. I'm going to kick it off with a game called Helldivers. Helldivers was an awesome overhead, looking down, kind of a thumbstick shooter, but it was so much more than that. It was co-op, which turned a lot of people off. It was the difficulty level was extreme, but it was such a fun game when you played with other people that you knew. Man, what a cool game. It's really a one-of-a-kind kind of game. Helldivers was really cool, made by Housemarque. I don't even know when that game came out. I want to say, I think it was a Housemarque game. Was it not? I could be wrong on that. I threw it on last minute. I thought it was Housemarque. Who made Helldivers?
I don't think so.
Jesus, because it's like a game they would have made. Who made Helldivers?
Arrowhead Game Studios.
Yeah, Arrowhead. What a freaking awesome game. But you said Housemarque, and it reminded me of Helldivers for whatever reason, because it's the kind of game they would have made. Helldivers was a great game. I don't think JQ ever really got into that, did you?
I did play it a little bit. And I think I actually even played it with you one time. The problem is that the game is really fucking hard. And when you do play co-op, friendly fire is always on and there's no way for you to turn it off. So with a twin stick shooter kind of game, whenever you're setting up like automated turrets and shit like that, half the time you're killing your own fucking teammates as opposed to killing the enemies, which is, it's endearing in its own way. And I know it's a great game. And I really did enjoy what I played. It was just a little too difficult.
Yeah, if you're looking for like a co-op game, you get a new system and you want to play something with some friends, Helldivers is a cheap way to do it. So another game that's more on the scary side. It seems like we got a lot of scary games in here, which is awesome. Those have kind of made a comeback this past generation. This is a game that was released in September 2015 by Frictional Games, and it is a game called Soma. This game was fantastic. It is a must play if you like scary games. What a wonderful game. I don't need to go into anything more because I don't want to spoil it. Third game, SteamWorld Dig 2. That game was awesome. If you haven't played any of the SteamWorld Dig games, might as well just start right off with the latest one because it was just fantastic. Jake, did you end up playing SteamWorld Dig 2 finally?
I do have it, and I did start it, but I never actually finished it. So I've started in on playing it or whatever. I just haven't gotten all the way through it because I want to play it on my Vita, but I don't play my Vita all the time, so it's one of those games that kind of comes and goes.
Yeah, a lot of these games that we picked were like pretty expansive, bigger games, and SteamWorld Dig 2 is one of those games you can pick up and go and just kind of play on the run. I wanted to have one of those on my list, but it didn't make the top 5, so it is on my runner-up list. Also on my runner-up list is another open world game called The Division 2. This game was fabulous. It did everything the first Division did, but did it better. The Division 2 is such a fantastic game if you're into those kind of games. Until Dawn, another scary game that came out this generation, was a fantastic game. This game was awesome. I actually bought a copy of it for my brother for his birthday once, and I don't think he actually played through it because he said he was a little too scared. It's too tense. And my last game that I picked is an open world game. And I might be wrong on this, but I think it came out this generation. Did the Phantom Pain come out in this generation?
Yes.
Yeah. So I went with this. I put a lot of time into this game. I really, really liked this game. It was kind of doomed when the ending didn't really get to go. The ending, the game didn't end really the way it was intended to because they pulled the plug on the game and they just released it kind of half baked. But the game itself was awesome. The gameplay was amazing. Everything that you could play through was really good. I really enjoyed this game. There was just so much to it. I spent a lot of time playing Metal Gear The Phantom Pain. So those are my 6 games. So if we want to do a quick recap, we'll do a quick recap of the games Jake and I talked about. Outside of the obvious games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Last of Us 2, Uncharted 4, Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, outside of those obvious ones and maybe a couple other ones, we have. So if you just bought a PlayStation 4, you're looking to play some new games that you haven't tried yet this generation, we would highly recommend those or these. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Persona 5, Astrobot Rescue Mission for the VR, Doom 2016, Resident Evil 7, Thumper, The Last Guardian, Far Cry 5, Ratchet & Clank, Resogun, Axiom Verge, The Evil Within, Life is Strange Season 1, Headlander, Nier Automata, Detroit Become Human, Helldivers, Soma, SteamWorld Dig 2, The Division 2, Until Dawn, and Metal Gear Phantom. That's a great list of games. So if you have about 30 years to kill, go ahead and start playing some games. I don't know. So yeah, that's a ridiculous list of games.
Yeah, that's a really great list. And I just wanted to comment on the Phantom Pain. I almost put it on my list, but it was like the one thing that was holding that game back for me is that it just didn't end. Like there was supposed to be a third act in that game, and they just didn't include it because of all the strife between Kojima and Konami. But to your point, it is like mechanically, it is a great game. I just wish that they had finished it. I wasn't like super sold on the open world mechanic, because that's not traditionally how Metal Gear games work.
Right.
I think that they did a really great job with it. So I will agree with you that, yeah, Phantom Pain is a great choice.
It's a good game. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for the podcast. Jake, do you have anything else you'd like to discuss before we sign off here for the day?
Nope. I think we did a good service today. Gathering this list together for people who want to play PS4. And obviously, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, there's going to be other games that come out before the PS5. Like, I think one of the big games that's coming out still is Cyberpunk 2077. But as far as I'm concerned, that's a fucking next-gen game because it's going to come out like almost in tandem with the next-gen console. Mm-hmm. Other than that, there really aren't any huge games coming out. Maybe the Avengers or something like that. So Squadrons, yeah, I guess. So there's some stuff, but I think that basically what we've covered is essentially the cream of the crop as far as PlayStation games are concerned.
Yeah, and hopefully someone proves us wrong. Hopefully a developer puts out an awesome game before the PS5 releases and says, nope, you guys got it wrong because this is the next badass game. But until that happens, I think this list is pretty definitive as far as what you and I are into and what you think that, I would recommend any one of those games to a friend if they said, hey, what game, if any of those games came out of my mouth, I'd be like, yeah, that was a good recommendation. I wouldn't double back on any of those. Those are all great games. So Good deal, Jake. Well, I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. This has been an extra long episode of PS This Is Awesome. This has been episode number 150. I appreciate you guys sticking with us through 150 episodes of this podcast. Jake and I don't make any money doing this. We do it all because it's a labor of love, and we love PlayStation. We love gaming. We like talking about this kind of stuff. We like producing content once in a while for our listeners. I did want to say one quick thing, Jake, before I signed off, and I forgot to even say anything. But we had someone write into the show. Josh wrote in, and he goes, "Hey, I checked for new episodes for the first time in forever and realized you guys have actually been making episodes again. I was going to write in to give Jake shit for not playing Death Stranding yet, but after hearing his reasons for not wanting to play Life is Strange, I don't think he's going to play Death Stranding anytime soon. It's a really good game, though. It's a weird, long ride. Emphasis on weird, but I would recommend it." So thanks for writing in, Josh. Yeah, neither of us have played Death Stranding. So that's something on my list, but I can't go on the list if we haven't played it. It's on my list of to play, the back burner. So any response to that, Jake?
I will play Death Stranding whenever the fuck I feel like playing Death Stranding, first of all. And second of all, no, I do want to play it, but it's a backlog game because it is one of those games that's going to take a little bit of time. So I want to make sure that I get through. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that once I get through Ghost of Tsushima, I'll have some free time to go through the backlog before November, when we assume November, when the PS5 comes out. So I'll be able to play some of these games like Death Stranding and like we talked about with the No Man's Sky stuff and some of these other games. So maybe even I'll dive into Astrobot and stuff. So yeah, I want to play it. I'm just waiting until, we had The Last of Us, and then now we're into Ghost of Tsushima. And like as soon as that stuff is done, I'm going to be looking for something to play. I'll probably play a palate cleanser first before I jump right into another open world game that's kind of dark and dreary. But yeah, I intend to play it.
Cool. All right. Well, again, thanks again to everybody for tuning into the podcast. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Post links to the feed and all that stuff up on your Facebook, your Twitter. Tell people we're out there because we're trying to get the word out a little bit. I think we do a pretty good job at the show. And I apologize in advance if this episode is not edited down as cleanly as the previous ones. It is an hour and 38 some minutes dry time here before editing. So I don't know how, it takes a long time to edit this stuff down. So I might just throw it up and you guys can get a nice, honest, raw version of Jake and I's conversations. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to have to line some stuff up. But thanks again for tuning in. This has been episode 150 of PS This Is Awesome. So like Injustice, Gods Among Us, Iconoclast, and I Expect You to Die. P.S. This is awesome.